Let's see if this says it's live. Okay, fantastic. Hello, and thank you for joining me for another Yay Emacs. I am trying a bunch of new things today, so we will see how it all works out. Technically, okay, so this time it says it's 7:30. There might be some delay, of course, for the stream, but hello. Okay. So I've got my YouTube chat here so people can use that for comments. I've got the Mastodon screen up so I can look at mentions and hashtags for Yay Emacs. And now I think this clock's in. I have a timer. My alarm says wake up. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Let's try lots of new things. Let's see if I can get used to it. So thank you very much for joining me today. We actually have a notes page this time. It is at yayemacs.com, which I think now actually works even if you live in the present instead of the distant past and you use IPv6. So that's there. And while I settle in and get over the live stream nerves, if you want to share any Yay Emacs moments from this week, things that you tried out and felt very happy about, please feel free to share them in the comments. Thank you, QZ for confirming that that works. Yay! Oh yes, so experiments. This is what we are currently doing. So I had a hard time last week trying to get the X230 tablet that I'm on to send video at more than half a frame a second. So now I'm using David Wilson's tip to use vdo.ninja to send the video stream over to the Surface Book. So I think it should work now. And in fact, the Surface Book has enough processing power that I can even experiment with webcams and background removal like all the cool kids. So that's something we're trying out. But since this is an Emacs live stream and not a fiddle about with meta hacking, live streaming about live streaming thing, I want to jump right into some of the cool stuff that I've been working on this week because Emacs is a lot of fun. So one of the things that I worked on was just documenting parts of my config. I had, so quick story. I was copying some of the interesting tidbits from last week's Emacs news. There was this marginalia annotation function that I wanted to bring in, and I ended up re-implementing a function that I already had because I was like, well, I want to put it in my marginalia section, but the indentation of this block is all messed up because org mode shifted to using like indents of like 8 spaces or something like that, the tab width of 8. So then I wanted to re-indent the block, and then I found out later that I'd actually re-indented it. Anyway, so I reorganized my whole configuration, and in the process, I came across little things that I meant to document. And since one of those little things was this copy to clipboard that I also ended up using because it's time for me to do my tax paperwork, I decided to write a blog post about it. So that's a blog post. You can find it on my blog, of course. And the idea there is it just makes a very simple way to copy a note to the. Let's go to the blog post for it. 11t org, find org, copy to clipboard. It makes an Emacs Lisp link that. I have it in here somewhere. Clipboard. Okay, it makes an Emacs Lisp link that allows you to just copy something to the kill ring. So here's the code. All it does is when you follow the link, it copies the link. And when you export it, it includes the description, sure. So the idea here is that if you've got this link, results, table replace, I don't want it to be in a drawer. Anyway. Okay, so you have, like, for example, copy hello world, and it will copy that and paste it into wherever you like, which could be another browser. So that is helpful to me, and maybe it might be helpful to you too. Now what is my shortcut for getting back to my notes? Okay, I'm practicing using this Hydra because I can never remember keyboard shortcuts, especially when I'm like, oh no, this is live. So here we are. we're back again. Another little tweak was running org mode Babel JavaScript blocks from Emacs using Spookfox. And this is helpful because I do a lot of JavaScript, but I don't like working in the developer console or other browsers, of course, or other editors, because of course Emacs is Emacs, and I like taking notes. So the idea here is that instead of evaluating the JavaScript blocks within Node, which I think is a default JavaScript interpreter for Babel blocks, I want to be able to run them in Spookfox instead. So Spookfox, where is that thing? Here we are. So here, for example, I've got this piece of code here. And if I take one of my Firefox tabs over here, planetemacslife.com, then I can run this bit of JavaScript, I think, sort of, stuff. Okay, wait, let me make sure that I am in the right window here. Window location, href. Okay, so I'm still in this tab over here. Let's change that one to Planet Emacs Life. All right. So that's in Planet Emacs Life, and this is here, and let's double check that, yep, we're now in the right spot. And this now takes the information from that web page. So it uses this Firefox extension called Spookfox that can run the Emacs Lisp, well, that can run the JavaScript that Emacs Lisp sends it. And you can get the results back. So all my little bit of code does is it says that if the Spookfox parameter is Spookfox, if the Spookfox parameter is set on this Babel block, then Control-C, which is our usual send stuff over to Babel, will send this code to Spookfox instead. So it runs it in this Firefox window. And you can do all sorts of things with it. This is how it works. It just wraps around the current Org Babel execute JS function using a little bit of advice. And it checks for the Spookfox parameter. And if it's not there, then it just calls the old function. And I thought it might be also very fun to send parts of a file to Spookfox so that if I'm writing a script, I don't have to keep copying and pasting things into the developer console, which is not fun. Yeah, and then so here, for example, if I've got this one, you can change the window location, and then you can say, okay, see, you can send just the current line or a region or something else to Spookfox, to Firefox through Spookfox. So that's fun. So a little thing to make it easier. Okay, so where was I? Other fun things that we worked on, that I worked on this. Hang on a second. It's this one. Okay. All right. That's like, yes. So I wrote a long blog post about how I choose what to hack on in Emacs because I guess we often struggle with this idea of how to balance tweaking Emacs with doing the things that we're supposed to be doing with Emacs. Like, actually solving the problem that we're working on. And so I had this pretty long blog post reflecting on it with sketches and a reference to the XKCD automation task and all of that stuff. But in true Emacs tweaking rabbit hole fashion, the thing that took me the most time and gave me the most fun working on this blog post was actually this graph over here, which, as you can see, highlights the dynamically based on scrolling and it's sticky and stuff. So my challenge is that my brain likes to jump all over the place. And this is true on both the large scale in terms of getting stuff done and going back and then writing code for it and all of that stuff. But also on the small scale, like it's hard for me to write a blog post because words have to follow each one after the other. So being able to just make a map and hope that people will figure out how everything is kind of connected is helpful. And I was able to figure out how to do that with GraphViz and Org Babel, of course, and some HTML. So I thought that was pretty fun, and I wanted to duck into how do I oh yes, 11t find file, find org, I think, for choosing what to hack on. Does this completion still work? Ah yes, what to hack on. Perfect, perfect. Okay. Oh, something I need to fix. Okay, let's try see if the 11t find file does this. No. Okay. Fine. Static blog site blog 2401. Normally I have something that allows me to very quickly jump to the thing. Okay, so I have an index.org here. And this is not actually needed. This over here specifies that graph. It includes the URLs for the nodes, and then it defines the edges between the connections between different nodes. So it says, so for example, first I started with def1, and then I got an idea for extending my include link to include from regular expressions to regular expressions, and so on and so forth. And this allows me to create that graph. It gets saved into an SVG because SVGs are very helpful for highlighting different parts of it. And then I use my own custom link for including it so that the whole markup for the SVG is included instead of just including it as an image that doesn't have as much interactivity or ability to tinker around with it using CSS. So then I have this list. And at some point, if I use this often enough, I'm going to be able to take this and make the markup simpler. Like, for example, I don't necessarily need to have def1 in each step here. Maybe I can use the definition list sort of thing to simplify this markup. Or maybe another custom link, because custom links are great. And then, and so what this does is it links the SVG. Remember here that you've got these URL hash def var, for example. So if people click on that, then theoretically they would jump to the right spot. I had to modify the scrolling behavior a little bit because I also wanted to have the map be sticky as people scroll down. And so I've got this HTML somewhere. Where's my export HTML here? Okay, so it's probably in my posts file. Okay, so this is what actually does the work, where I say, okay, highlight the currently selected thing, and then I have some functions for highlighting an element by ID, or updating it, or scrolling to the right one, and so forth. So it was a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of org mode, but it was a lot of fun to put together. Which means that I can start thinking in even more tangled thoughts. So I'm sorry in advance, but yay! I've been trying to figure out how to make these kinds of blog posts easier to think about and navigate, just because then I don't have to spend as much time trying to make it make sense in a linear way. So between that and the Reveal.js animation thing that I talked about either last week or the week before, I think that would be very fun to work with. Now I'm kind of noodling over the idea of how to make really lightweight presentation style things in blog posts, because blog posts, I like to write blog posts because they're a way for me to get my thoughts out of my head. I like to put screenshots and little videos in there because otherwise it's hard to just imagine how things work. But screenshots and videos are slightly annoying to scroll down through. Like, especially if you're comparing one screenshot to another and you're scrolling, it's easier to just, with a presentation or a video, you're just looking ahead and things come to you instead of you having to travel through things. So I've been thinking about how to have an image or a video, and then you can, well, the videos can have their own narration, but even if a blog post is just screenshots, to have that kind of narration and auto-advancing feature built into it, so that it becomes a mini narrated presentation, like the way that my EmacsConf presentation could be self-paced and people could just go through the narration without, and still click on the links and things like that. So that is one of the things that I am thinking about, how to build those presentation type thingies in a lightweight way, because really, text plus screenshots plus audio narration takes so much less space than a video. So that's something to think about. It would be nice to be able to produce those easily. And thanks to System Crafters also from encouraging words earlier, and SLK 500 for saying heart just now. So lots of fun things. Okay. So that's what I got for that one. And I totally forgot to start the chapter timing for that one, but this is another thing that I've been experimenting with. So the idea here is that I want to write chapter indices for the YouTube videos so that people can just jump to the part they're interested in. But it's hard to figure out what the time is, and I never remember to actually do the timestamps because I'm too busy figuring out what to say. So that's my new hack, is that I can click on these to-do links, and they have a little bit of Emacs Lisp that displays that message, which includes a QR code, which I suppose if I actually showed it for more than 2 seconds, that would be helpful to somebody someday. And then it would save that, so then I can go back and calculate the relative time offsets into the video from the times that it has saved. So QZM says there's some kind of like bot command that people can use for chapters, so that would be helpful in splitting things up. I'm still trying to get the hang of this talking thing. It's quite strange. Oh, lovely. Okay, so System Crafters also has an Emacs Lisp thing that logs timestamps when he changes slides in org%. And maybe that's something that I can look into. I've been using just this plain org file, which now gets published. So I mean, I can export it as HTML and as iCal and a bunch of other things. So that's fantastic. But maybe org% will be like snazzier, and I've also, along a related note, started using Write Room to try to kind of get more space on the sides when I'm writing. So that's nice also. Charlie mentioned also that it could be interesting to have something like Reveal.js's SVG graph thing. So that's something to look into also. Oh, but yes. So David says streaming is fun, and I'm starting to learn this because previously I was like, well, it was hard to find scheduled time because the kiddo's sleeping time was all over the place, and now the kiddo is actually sort of reasonably consistent at sleeping, or at least distractible enough with reading or watching Rubik's Cube solving videos that if I need to, I can create that space for myself. So now I have an evil plan. Also, I figured out that just getting started with a whole bunch of blog posts about things gets over my, I don't know if people want to just watch me for 2 hours fiddling around with Emacs Lisp and going do, 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 which I guess could be a thing for discovering workflows, but I don't know. It's anyway, so this going through blog posts that I've done recently lets me think, okay, I wanted to narrate this a little bit more or kind of demonstrate something. So, and that is helpful. But now also I have an evil plan. My evil plan is that, again, this is a good way for me to get ideas and convert them into blog posts and code, and then do the workflow demos, because it's sometimes really difficult to see how to use something from just the code. And this process is fun. Tweaking Emacs is fun for me. But also, if I do this out loud, other people can help out with questions and comments, like the way that you're all doing now, which is great, fantastic. And of course, those are all very selfish reasons. So I'm hoping other people are getting something out of this too, because like, hello, 19 people who are watching. And also for some reason, the hundreds of people who check these videos out afterwards, great, fantastic. So I'm hoping you pick up some ideas from the crazy things that we like to play with in terms of Emacs. And so my medium term plan there is then to start seeing how those ideas get transformed when they get bounced off other people and other people bounce ideas back. Because that's one of the fun things about Emacs, right? Everything is so personalizable that seeing how one workflow idea gets transformed into somebody else's life, you learn something from that process. So I'm really looking forward to how bouncing ideas will work here. And especially if we can find little things that make doing things more fun, or they make it take less effort, then maybe more people will share more things. And then I get to learn from that also. Which is fantastic, because if long term, like this can help build up an archive, then people can go into that archive and find things without necessarily waiting for me. So I don't become the bottleneck. People can just go in there and find, oh, you remember that time that I saw this interesting idea about SVG highlighting or whatever. You can just go in there and kind of like try to find more information. So that's great. And then ideally, as people find the things that resonate with them, the cool demos that say, oh yeah, this text editor can be extended to do audio editing and animation and all that crazy stuff, then more people will come and join and share what they're learning, and then move on to building stuff maybe for themselves and for other people, and then it'll be even more amazing. And lastly, this is kind of odd, but having listened in the background to so many of the kiddos' current viewing habits, her favorite YouTube channels like Jperm or Cubehead or Tingban for Rubik's Cube videos, or like iCraftMC for Minecraft, I'm beginning to appreciate kind of the value of having these mental models of other people in your head. I can imagine how they talk and all that stuff. And I am looking forward to watching more of the Emacs videos, which I haven't done in a while, because usually for Emacs news, I'm just skimming through the transcripts super quickly on account of A, like lots of videos, and B, not much time. And so this idea of kind of getting other people's voices into your head, or possibly becoming a voice in somebody's head, I think there might be something interesting there. And of course, like the buzz these days is, oh no, AI voice cloning, this is a safety issue and all of that stuff. But I think there are positive uses for this as well, in the sense that, as Kizum says, he's like, or they are like, I have no Emacs friends and you're speaking to my soul. A lot of us are doing this in isolation. We don't normally meet other people. And so the more voices we can have in our heads of actual people who enjoy doing these things, the less weird we feel. Or actually more like the more weird we feel, but in a good way, like there's a tribe, right? So if sharing more ideas in a multimedia sort of way, like with either audio narration with images, or this webcam thing that we're trying, my goodness, I have to like actually dress up and stuff, helps people build these mental models in their head. Hey, one of the nice things about this webcam thing is I can make hand gestures. Cool. Okay. Then might be interesting. So if while you're hacking on Emacs, you can be like, oh yeah, you can imagine me cheering you on and saying, that's fantastic. Have you thought about writing a blog post about that, so that we can get that into Planet Emacs Life and then into Emacs News? Please share what you're learning. It'll be great. Maybe that's a thing. So that's my evil plan for Yay Emacs. And I am getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I have very quickly covered a lot of different things. Words per minute is one of the things that I want to gradually work on. I think it's, what? I think it's probably I have to practice shifting from my I'm very enthusiastic about Emacs thing to maybe I can imagine I'm using my mom voice and trying to explain something to a 7-year-old. Okay, because then I try to talk a little bit more slowly then. So I'm going to practice using my mom voice at some point. Um, where was I? See, this is the thing. You're just trying to find out where I was in this stack of thoughts. Yes. Okay. So, that's your Emacs. Here I am. There are lots of blog posts. We can actually see if people have questions. I probably have about 15 more minutes before my voice gives out, or I need to go and feed a kiddo breakfast or whatever. So here we are. Hi. I mean, I could just keep hacking and talking about more stuff. Oh, did you know that we have? So I figured out the iCalendar thing just this morning. I'm gonna keep talking, which is great. Okay, where were we? Notes for the session. Okay, so I'm going to practice this. Capture a note. iCal. That way, the time I started talking about it will be recognized. Okay, so there's an iCalendar file now, and it takes advantage of the Org iCalendar export that's built in, so you should try that as well if this is the sort of thing that you do. And what it does is it takes these timestamps, like these ones. They don't have to be scheduled timestamps. They can just be regular active timestamps. And it can take all the entries that have scheduled that have active timestamps like this, and stick them into an iCal file, which people can then import into their calendars. And I actually had to do ICS. So it makes a file that looks kind of like this, and I think that may be useful. I don't know. But it's more for the upcoming one as well, which I have tentatively scheduled for next Sunday at around this time, because the earlier it is, the more likely I can get through it without having to cut it short on account of needing to feed the kiddo. She's getting more and more independent, but she does like a good snuggle and helping out. And oh yes, and so the little thing that I needed to do that is where's this published thing? Okay. Is I also needed to set this iCalendar datetime format to give it the UTC times instead of my time zone, to make it easier for people in other places to use. I have, I just totally stole that magical string from Org iCalendar datetime formats documentation. So that's that, and it's just time expressed in universal time. And if you do that, then your iCalendar file can have something that that other people can use without messing around too much with time zones. I'm looking forward to reusing some of the code that I wrote for EmacsConf on generating, a dozen, well, 2 dozen, and a little bit, because one of the time zones is a half-hour offset. Lots of time zone files. So translating an org file into lots of time zones, because org doesn't have time zone support yet, but they are working on it. In the meantime, translation is fine. I think it's going to be slightly different from what I wrote for EmacsConf, because for EmacsConf, I extracted the data and then I made an iCal file just for the session times. But here I want to take this whole index org and then just look for all the timestamps like this and do that translation. So I want to write a copy of this so you can have access to all of the notes, but just with different time zone, with a different time zone as a basis. So yes, that's where we are. That's one of my to-dos someday for the future. And you can, if you want to take a look at kind of some of the workflow ideas that I've just been grabbing, there's a workflow section, which has started accumulating blog posts. This is actually done now. I think I've actually posted this as a blog post, and there, if you happen to have any ideas for one of those, then that's great. Oh, actually, okay. So and then I know time zones are terrible. Bill shares the pain. And Charlie mentions that an off-screen agenda might be useful for finding my way back if I go off on tangents. The other thing that I considered actually, I'd started experimenting with using streaming speech recognition to get kind of a live transcript of stuff as I'm brain dumping things if I happen to be at my computer. They're not expensive now, so the streaming ones tend to be less accurate than OpenAI Whisper, which is really accurate for the kinds of things that I like to talk about, aside from getting some words wrong. Anyway, streaming is less accurate than that. But I was hoping that it could then kind of just capture all of that stuff in a text buffer, then I can just scroll up it uh, in order to see what I was thinking about. I have something like this sort of working offline. I've been experimenting with an audio brain dumping process where I just clip a lapel mic on and then wander around or do my chores and just talk about whatever I've got in my mind with some structure, saying things like begin section, think about Emacs community lightning talk for LibrePlanet, stop section. And then I have a little bit of org mode, actually a little bit of Emacs Lisp that pulls those out as org mode headings. And that is actually in a blog post, naturally. Do I have this? Oh, okay, fine. That one's not quite working, so I will navigate to it myself. Sexual audio brain dump. Another great reason to blog is that it allows you to find stuff again, and sometimes a little bit faster than looking through my own notes. Anyhow, so I have a thing here that turns those brain dump sections into hyperlinked things. Anyway, so this works for my offline stuff because I can process that. And then if I want to get it processed by a better, more accurate speech recognition engine, I now have code to resend the audio to Whisper. But I've been thinking about how to use that kind of summarization and wayfinding and all that with streaming speech recognition, mainly for this problem of popping the stack. Every time you get an idea, it just goes on the stack, and then sometimes you have to go find your way back. Now with org, you can have an org capture template that clocks in. So I actually do have a capture template for an interrupting task, which I think is my capture template letter I. So if I were theoretically clocked into a task, then I could use that capture template to capture this interrupting thought or task, and then use org clock go to, I think, or one of those org clock jump. Well, there's a command for it to see the list of recently clocked tasks to go backward in order to find the thing that I had been thinking about before this thing distracted me. But that is a practice and a process that I have yet to get used to. So I'll work on that someday. But in the meantime, I think even just having all of this stuff in a form where I can go back and grab snippets of it from the transcript and then try to make sense of it and see which parts I want to save as narration, or if I want to extract into a clip, or I want to add to the blog post, would be handy already. And in fact, I did actually edit the transcript for last week's episode. So it's up there, and it has been helpful. I can say like, okay, this is I can add a note comment saying this is a chapter. And I will eventually work on integrating those back into the blog posts that I was talking about. So getting the hang of this live streaming thing, I don't know, it seems like a good way to add another level of commentary, thinking about stuff, figuring things out. And I get to actually say hi and hear from people, because that's how you learn stuff, right? You learn through conversation, and it feels semi like a one-way conversation in the video, but it feels more like a conversation when I'm looking at the chat. So who knows? But we're all figuring things out together, and I can't wait to see what people are going to do with stuff. And I've totally been forgetting to check Macedon. Where's my window for this? uh, okay. Eventually, I'll get the hang of this. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share in today's session, because animations and SVG and tinkering around with links has been just all these little improvements that make things better and better. Now let me bring up Mastodon quickly in case anyone has actually mentioned anything over there. And also take a breath, because I always forget to do that. Okay, where are we? Next. Any recent notifications? Nope. Okay, all right. Oh yes. I remember. I almost forgot. Okay, you can do this. All right, now it's for this session. Yes. So with about, I don't know, 10 more minutes is what I said for this stream. Feel free to share what you're looking forward to exploring next week, because if you happen to, if I happen to be able to think of something that's related to your idea, maybe I can save you time too. That'd be fantastic. I'm sort of noodling around some ideas. Oh, you can share your kind of ideas, plans, thoughts in YouTube chat or Mastodon, now that I've remembered where to find things again. Anyway, I will get started by sharing some of the things that I'm looking forward to doing. So I recently came across the Narration Studio GitHub repository again. What it is it's this clever little web-based interface for recording narrations by displaying the text from your script. And when you read, it'll display 2 sections of your script at a time. So when you read the first part, it'll move on to the next part. But if you repeat yourself because you didn't like that take or you want to do it again, then it uses speech recognition to detect that, and it will stay where you are. So as long as you're not reading the part after that, it will stay in the same place. And it works around the inaccuracies in browser-based speech recognition in a pretty clever way, in that it uses the pronunciation dictionary from CMU to convert the sentence, like the words in your script, to phonemes, and then it can use the Levenstein string distance to see how many edits, like additions or insertions or replacements, are needed. So it can see which line, either the first line or the second line, your speech is closest to, in order to find out whether it should move on or if it should keep the previous one. So I've been thinking about kind of ways to use these approximate matches, because things that are spelled very differently can sound the same. And this is a challenge that I run across when I'm dealing with transcripts or when my brain dumps or things like that. I'm not really sure I'm going to go with the CMU pronunciation dictionary approach, because the Soundex algorithm is a lot simpler. So maybe I'll do that instead. And just as a way to make it easy to go through the EmacsConf transcripts and say, whenever they're talking about org Rome, they mean org Rome as in org, O-R-G, Rome as in R-O-A-M, and not Rome as in R-O-M-E, which is a lot more common, I suppose, but not in our particular situation. So that's one of the things that I want to play around with. Another thing that I'm thinking of doing is this possible little quick lightning talk for LibrePlanet, which is coming up soon, in a couple of months. David Wilson is doing the keynote in that one, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got to say, especially if he manages to also talk about the Emacs community. Although, of course, it's totally awesome if he wants to focus on the Geeks community instead, because that's also a very system crafters thing to do. Hi, David. Emacs Insights also. Anyway, yeah, so that's cool. But maybe a little lightning talk around where are places that people can go if they're curious about the Emacs community, or a little lightning talk about how Emacs news really only takes an hour or two a week, and it's a lot of fun to do, and it's very easy. And I got to learn so much that I'm going to keep doing it. It turns out to be helpful for other people too, so that's a nice bonus. But really, it's it's very it's part of my evil plan because it tickles my brain. And or also how we managed to do EmacsConf with something like $45 worth of hosting costs and all this automation as described in my EmacsConf presentation, allowing us to get pretty much the whole conference sorted out with mostly me just doing the heavy lifting before and after the conference, plus this wonderful ragtag team of volunteer captioners. And then, of course, the hosts and the check-in volunteer during the actual conference itself. So, kind of how to do these conferences and community building things on a shoestring. So, I'm starting to think about what those things are, especially since I've got all these like lovely things, lovely ways to start making these presentations easier. And then lastly, I've been sticking a lot of things into my inbox, and I'm slowly getting better at getting things out of my inbox and refiling them into either the blog posts that they're going to be related to, or the projects or areas of interest that they're also like related to. And some of the things that are related to that idea of refiling. Okay, so my org refile targets has a lot of files in it because I like to use it as a way to jump around. So it's basically my general navigation. At the same time, when I'm refiling from my inbox, I don't necessarily want to go to all these different things. So I don't want it to be as I want it to show me a smaller set so that it's faster and so that I can just recognize what I'm looking at. There's probably a way in consult to just like I can probably use like MetaP to go back up the history, but I should check whether the refile can show me like the recency based list instead of I don't even know what it uses. I just try to jump around. Anyway, so the idea there is try to refile to a subset, try to automatically refile as much as possible, and if I do need to manually refile things, try to show me a shorter list of the things that I'm currently actively thinking about. And then I started thinking, okay, how would we pile sort something? Let's say, for example, throughout the day, I am looking through, well, I'm thinking about lots of different things. You can probably tell by the way my brain jumps around that, that it does this sort of thing. Little moments here and there. I have an idea. I put it on my phone, or in I jot it down in super notes so that the kid doesn't grump at me for being on my phone. Or I look up a web page and I send it to Orgsley Revived. Or maybe I'm actually at my computer and I try to capture a note using the Org Capture Firefox extension. So I get all these random things in my inbox file. Sometimes there are streaks, like I'm interested in something, and so I'll capture 3 links that are related to it, or a couple of quotes from a web page or whatever. And then I generally have a set of things that I'm thinking about, and the inbox things can be kind of mixed. And then I just want to refile them to those things. Some of the things are fairly standard, so I can use tags to refile things, and my refile to tag targets is very nice now. I've been using that a lot. It means that when I have a moment, I can go through my inbox and just add tags to it, which is easy to do on my phone, and also very easy to do in org mode. So even if I don't feel like going through the whole refile interface, I can just use those tags to do it. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to sort of pile sort an inbox, or even just any random list of things? So kind of like the way that in real life you would sort a pile of cards, but by just tossing them onto different piles and grouping things as needed. So I'm starting to look at people's card sorting or pile sorting interfaces to see what an Emacs version of that would be like. So those are some of the things that I'm curious about, and might explore this week. Who knows? And I totally have forgotten to mark this as to do again. That's okay. And that's where we are. So I will take another breath, see if anyone wants to say anything in the chat. But if I get antsy on account of like people are starting to wake up, then you can always email me, sasha@sashachua.com. Hard to spell, but chances are by now you can, you always find ways to find my email address, or find me on Mastodon, or leave a comment on this video, I suppose. All right. Last ideas for homework. Says QCM. Could you expound? Last ideas for homework, as in refiling is also very helpful for organizing homework resources from your inbox into the assignments that they're related to. Yes, absolutely. For me, fortunately, my only academic things are the occasional nightmares about accidentally missing a course because I'd completely forgotten about it. No actual homework, but I like to write and I like to work on different projects. So that in a sense is the homework I set for myself, and it would be very helpful to stick those notes into those things so that I can find them again afterwards. And also so I can see what else in the inbox is not related to one of those things yet and needs further looking at. Oh yes. So I'm just going to think about this pile sorting thing. So it'll be great. It's a fairly established kind of area of user interface design thing. On account of it's used in all sorts of like actual people getting paid to do this stuff sort of thing. So I do a very simple version of this in Emacs News because I like to categorize all the different links, and the way that I do that is I have this function. Ooh, let's see if I can actually go to it. All right, okay. So first step, I'm going to capture talking about the news refiling. Look at that! I'm actually using the Hydra. Okay, news refiling is oh, that's actually in my, not here, it's in my Emacs News. Which eventually will open. Very mysterious. Okay, here we are. Categorize? Okay. So the way that categorization works with Emacs News is I have a function that moves a current item to a category. So this stuff is in the Emacs News repository. I just have this massive index.org file with all of the Emacs News subtrees in it, as well as the code that I used to generate it. And what it does is it takes a list and it looks for the headings in that list, and it allows me to move things to either a list of predefined categories or one of the categories that I've just added. So so these are, for example, my speed keys for the categories I use a lot. But also there's a whole bunch of other categories. Let's go find categories. Okay. Let's do an example. So let's say that I have a link here. Let me execute the buffer. Actually, I just need the defs. Okay, so let's say I have a link here. Do I not have my defs sorted out yet? Categorize. Okay. The demo bug, the rule of demo strikes again. So theoretically, it would show me the thing. Now, I wonder why. Couple debug on error. Buffer substring. Oh, there's no category for this one? Why not? Let's go. Oh, okay. I will deal with that later. So at some point in the future, I will demonstrate how my Emacs News sorting thing works. But here we are at 8:20. So I will see everyone again, possibly next week-ish at 7:30 on Sunday, roughly. And thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye.